podcast this week is Derek Ogren, realtor from Cambridge, Isanti area with Century 21. Our podcast is sponsored as usual by my website, which is mnlowdownpayment.com. In the intro, I'm shooting intro today in our hot tub. Right, Sawyer? So in case you don't believe me, here's the Splishity Splash. We are outside. It's probably, about 25 degrees outside, Sawyer? Steam, hot tub, going pretty good. You can see our breath. My efforts now will turn towards the younger generation to tune into my podcast, like Sawyer's age. How old are you, Sawyer?
12.
All right. So tune in this week to listen to Derek Ogren talk about his plans to take over as King of Cambridge, how he manages client expectations, his love of baked goods, and most importantly, for those younger generations out there, tell me if you think Derek is lit, extra, or basic. Huh? What are you, Sawyer? Sawyer, so lit. All right. Hope you enjoy. Thanks.
Why would you say that?
All right, so I just pressed record, so we're recording now. So my guest today is Derek Ogren, longtime friend, referral partner as well. Derek is a realtor with Century 21 Moline for about 5 years. He is the current president of the Rotary of Cambridge Isanti. He's the education coordinator for B&I, which is how I spend my time with him. And he's basically the mayor of Cambridge Isanti. Is that fair to say?
I don't know if we go that far,
Okay.
but
King?
well, I don't know that I have a lot of interest in politics, so we'll stay away from that
Okay.
arena. Yeah.
Well, there goes all my questions because that's all I had to talk about today was politics. So, and to be honest, I didn't even care what Derek said today because, as you can tell, he's got the most amazing radio voice. So he could say nothing but gibberish today. I'd be okay with that because his voice is silky smooth. And you may have missed your calling as a DJ. You've heard that before, I'm sure, from people.
I've heard that. Yeah.
If you ever think about just ditching the whole real estate thing, just being a DJ,
I like the real estate industry. I might stick there. Yeah.
it's a lot more glamorous to be a DJ.
Well, I don't know about that.
That's what
I don't know if I could make it with the music. I don't have a good taste in music. I'm told I don't have.
Well, if you
good
ever
taste.
fail as a realtor, I think that's your backup plan.
All right,
is being
that
a
could
DJ.
work.
Okay.
That could work.
So a few questions first of all off the bat here. Tell me about how you got into real estate. What brought you to real estate?
Yeah. So I've always been in sales. Right out of high school, I started in sales, never really left. And, I spent a lot of time in the cell phone world, believe it or not. And with cell phones, I really enjoyed it, but the piece that I was missing was the long-term relationship. Mm-hmm. You would see... you'd see somebody for about 30 minutes to an hour. You'd sell them a phone, and then you wouldn't see them again for 2 years. And to me, that didn't really hit home for what I was wanting to do and accomplish. So I looked at real estate. I've always been interested in it, and it came naturally to me for talking about homes, learning about homes, and then the customer service piece, your lifelong clients once you have a realtor or real estate relationship. Mm-hmm. And that's what I wanted. And so I made the transition and a little bit more freedom to work with and for who I want. And it's been a great transition for me.
Did anybody at that time say, you're crazy for leaving cell phones? Cell phones is the future. Derek, don't go.
I had a little bit of pushback, yeah, but my support system for going into real estate was that much stronger, so I didn't have a lot of concerns with that. The other piece was that I didn't own my own business with cell phones. I was working for corporate and things, and that wasn't necessarily the way I wanted to go either. And with Century 21, I have the freedom to like I said, work with who I want and for who I want, and I work. It's funny, I thought I would work less in real estate without having a boss, quote unquote boss, right? But now I'm working far more hours, but I enjoy it that much more.
I would say that everyone always kind of slams retail for the hours, and I've worked retail as well.
Yeah.
The hours are tough, but I'd say that I would almost think your hours might be worse than retail sometimes.
They're far worse.
Are they really?
Oh yeah, I didn't expect the hours that I'm working, but with that being said, like I said, I love it. It's the best decision other than marrying my wife, if she's listening. She's number one, but second, that it's been great ever since I joined. Yeah, right, Jaded.
I think that I work some weird hours too, but it's different for me where I might get a text or a phone call at 9:30 at night or 7:30 Saturday morning, but it's not a long. It's a 15-minute question and answer session.
Yep.
No one's calling me saying, drop everything, meet me in 30 minutes at this house. This is the one.
Right.
And so that I do have a lot of respect for the fact that you guys and gals are at the beck and call sometimes. And we'll talk later about how you manage that, because that's something
Right.
that I think I would crash and burn. I'm a total people pleaser, so I would be the guy that would not manage that well, would probably end up divorced and familyless, because I was the one that was like, hey, I know we're going to dinner for your 40th birthday, but I got a client that needs to see a house. So y'all have fun, and that would be me. So,
That doesn't work real well.
no?
Doesn't
Are
work
there
real
people that
well.
do that in this? Have you seen people kind of
Oh yeah,
be that
oh
way?
yeah.
And-
Well, myself included. We'll talk about it a little bit later, like you said, but it's a challenging profession if you can't set the boundaries.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it can get very challenging.
And see, I think you have to be a realtor. You have to be a hustler. You have to be a go-getter, but you have to somehow still taper that with the balance of family and business. And
Yeah.
that's where I think I have seen some people that I think have crashed and burned with that have been successful as realtors, but have not managed that balance well. And again, that's where I think I would struggle. So that's probably
Yeah.
why I'm better off in mortgage, because my family does get annoyed with me doing a 15-minute phone call at Disneyland,
Right.
but at least I can still stay married
Yep.
and have kids that respect me and not be like, Daddy's out.
Yep. See you in a couple
Here's
hours.
$20 for some concessions. I should set the stage too. We're at New Hope Church, a beautiful church up in. I'm sorry, we're in
Cambridge.
We're in Cambridge. I knew that.
Cambridge,
I was
yeah.
just testing you.
Yeah, right.
And so this is where we meet weekly for BNI. You're going to hear some background noises still as that group breaks up. And it's a beautiful fall day. This light, fluffy snow outside trying to accumulate. So I had hoped that we could do this podcast outside, but I think today we're better off inside,
Right.
unless you want to go outside.
Nope, I'm good. The
Okay.
wind whipping around isn't going to be real pleasant.
That makes a difference for me, the wind. It definitely does. So getting back to where we're at, so are you from Isanti, Cambridge area?
Yep. I
Okay.
grew up here. I grew up in Isanti on the Rum River, if anyone's familiar with that. It was great. I loved the country feel, and I went to school for a few years. Started in North Dakota, ended up in St. Cloud, and enjoyed that, but I liked home, and I liked the small town feel, and I had a good network here for starting my real estate career, and so that was the way I was drawn, and I live now in Cambridge.
Okay.
So, yep.
Never had the urge to move downtown Minneapolis to the condo and.
Nope. Too many people. I like the elbow room, like I said, and
Yeah.
and the little bit slower pace of life up here. A little bit easier going people,
Yeah.
and more smiles and more personalized.
It's a lifestyle. It's a difference of a lifestyle, I think.
Yeah.
And I've spent some time in Minneapolis lately, downtown Minneapolis. I think I've seen a difference in the way people act. And I think I've noticed that people down there are busier. The whole lifestyle is just crazy
Yeah.
busy.
Yeah.
They must like that way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, it's interesting. From Cambridge, you go down to downtown Minneapolis, St. Paul, anywhere like that. You just look at people, try to make eye contact, and they immediately look away. Nobody smiles,
There's no
nobody
time for
waves. Yeah, right, exactly. No time for that. So, but in Cambridge, it's a totally different feel. You can go to, you walk around a street corner, and you run into somebody, and they say, "Hey, how you doing? How's your day?" And you're a total stranger. So it's a little different, but
So-
it's what I like.
I've lived in a small town in Wisconsin called Ridgeway, population maybe 500. We had
Oh, that is small.
a gas station, we had a post office, and a bar.
Yep.
They were all
the
separate
staples.
buildings. Yeah, the three things that matter most: how to send mail, how to buy beer. This is Wisconsin, of course.
Yeah.
And how to get gas.
Right.
But I did get to embrace the country living of slowed down. It just slows down automatically.
Yeah.
An elbow room, and not that I was avoiding people, but I didn't see people as much. But I had a day job in a bank, and so I did see people all day long. But that's something we'll talk about in a bit too, about that lifestyle difference, because some people, I think, live in the suburbs, like myself, with a white picket fence and Bob next door, and I think they sometimes yearn for some elbow room, some acreage, which you just can't get unless you get north of the cities, or of course south or west or east, but get away from the cities. So do you have people that come to you and they're like, I live in Andover, I want to have
Yeah.
elbow room, I want to change lifestyles, I don't mind driving 35, 40 minutes. Is that a common
It is.
conversation?
It is, yeah. What's nice about Cambridge, and one of the benefits of this market is that I can work with people that want the hustle and bustle. And I've worked in the northern suburbs and do often with those clients, but there are several people that come to me and say, Derek, I'm looking to commute. I wanna get out, buy more land. Up in this market, you can buy more with the same amount of money than in your northern suburbs or downtown. So you can, if you're looking for more, but you're only able to afford so much, you can come up a little bit farther north and you can buy much more for the money. And so I see that a lot. And the elbow room, the people want animals, right? Farmsteads, things like that. Even hobby farms with goats or chickens. It don't have to be horses and cows, but goats and chickens, there's plenty of room up here for those animals, and they're appreciated.
Right. I think hobby farm, let me think of the difference for me on the lending side. I think that hobby farm means it has to be a non-income earning farm, which makes it a hobby.
Yep.
Which then means I can help those folks with financing. But if they want a true farm situation, that's where I think I have to step away and somebody else steps in from a financing standpoint. But do you have folks that ask for both?
I do. Not so much the income earning. I see a lot of leisure farmers, we should probably get away from the word farmers, but they just want to have the animals as pets, ride horses around or do some goats and chickens to keep the bugs and grass away, and things like that. But no, not a lot of income other than the true big, large farms that are becoming fewer and farther between because of the development going on. So a lot of the farmers are checking out and cashing out, and then developers are coming in with their land, and so we see a lot of that. But it's a very diverse market up here as far as the different types of properties, because you can live right in town in Cambridge and still be hustle bustle, but then you can also drive 10 miles in any direction and be in total country.
Now I've got some friends who moved away from, I think they were in Blaine, up to Cambridge, and then they both still work in the Twin Cities. And they did say that the commute was a downside for them, but the upside was so much more that they didn't mind.
Yeah,
they just accepted the commute. And to be honest, sometimes the commute, you can live in Blaine, work in, I've had people live in Blaine, work in Fridley, I'm sorry, Lakeville, and that commute's been an hour for them. That's the same distance that my friends drive from Cambridge to, I think they're in New Brighton for their work. So same commute, it just feels different because you're commuting through countryside into city. But it's no different time spent in the car.
Exactly.
So you're saying you don't just work in Cambridge, Isant. You actually will work outside of those areas.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I try to stay within about 45 minutes of Cambridge. So if you draw a circle that allows me into the Blaine, Fridley, even further south than that, all the way up to even Hinckley and Mora and Princeton, North Branch. So I've got a big network, big market up here to cover, but I enjoy going south of Cambridge into the East Bethel, Ham Lake, Andover, Blaine. All those markets. They're right up my alley. Absolutely.
So if somebody wants to see houses in Coon Rapids, for example, where I live, you can schedule them for 5 showings in 5 hours or less, and hit all 5 because they're all within a mile of each other or whatever. Up here, is that different?
A little bit.
You got to plan for more distance between them.
Right. So that's the interesting part, and that's where I say it's kind of diverse. So I might meet with 2 clients and do a tour of showings for 2 clients, and one wants to look at houses that are 20, 30 miles apart, and then the other client wants to see houses that are within the same neighborhood, within a 2-mile span, and there's 5 in that 2-mile span. And so it takes a little bit of time to get acquainted with that process and get used to that, but it can make for a fun day when you're going 30 miles cross country to the next house, and they like that one just as much as the one they just looked at.
Do they ever say, let's go back and check that one out again?
That's when I say we need to sign up for a new day.
Let's just take pictures and look back at pictures. Do you think that, so again, this is me being a city boy, does every house you sell up here have automatically like 10 acres and a couple chickens?
And a couple chickens. Usually the chickens don't come with the property.
You do closing gifts as chickens?
I don't. I was told that just recently actually that I should get puppies for closing gifts or kittens. I don't know how well that would go over with some people, but I'll think about it.
Yeah.
No, and there's everything from, I was just looking at a property with over 100 acres up here, and then have city lots that have quarter-acre lots right in Cambridge, and so you can find everything in between in there as well. And like I said, the money goes farther up here as far as property property values.
Right.
And so you can really buy a nice home with some space to spread out and room to roam, and really not be too far away from the city life if that's where you work and travel and things. Absolutely.
Interesting. So tell me, and I won't hold you to this number, but is it like 30% more house for your dollar up here? 50%? Not 50% more.
Not 50%.
25% more?
I'd say 20 to 25%. Yeah, and I say that with hesitation because it's honestly 30 minutes in any direction from here is a new market. It's a different market,
yep.
And so I can't really give you an exact number, but if somebody I can nerd out all day long if you want as far as numbers are concerned, but I think that's a follow-up meeting with more specifics.
Right.
If you're looking in the Cambridge market versus the Fridley market, I can show you exactly where the price differences are for what you can buy.
So if I've got a pre-approved client that has no realtor yet, that is frustrated by the fact that Brooklyn Center only gets them so much purchase price range, let's call it 160, they could potentially move to outskirts area or move out to a rural altogether, and even qualify for zero down financing too through USDA,
right.
And maybe get to that higher price point of $200,000 or whatever. Because I'm sure taxes are a bit less too.
Oh, absolutely, okay. And that's a good point. The zero down financing is very popular up here, and a lot of folks don't even know it exists because they've never looked in. The Isani County line is the cutoff there. So if you come north of Isani County line, the taxes are far lower. You can buy more property for the money, and you may be able to qualify for a little more with zero down. And that's obviously your arena, but that's absolutely a very good point. I have people that look specifically in this market because of the zero down program, and being able to buy more property.
So if you look on the map for the USDA, and by the way, zero down is offered through the USDA, which most don't think of a department that handles home financing. They think of that more on the farm side of things, but they do both. Their goal is to help folks move to rural areas as their primary homestead. If you look on the map, there is a direct line that goes from west to east. It goes flat across. That's the county line.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew that. I totally knew that. I was testing.
But there's certain parts, and I think it's just recently changed too. But there's certain parts of Chisago and things that qualify and then don't qualify. So that's where again a more in-depth conversation is necessary. But there's all sorts of options that people don't necessarily realize, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at.
I was just asking for a friend. It wasn't for me. My question.
Right.
But, I have sat there and thought to myself, gosh, it goes just straight west to east, just across like a straight line, like someone drew it with a ruler. That's really weird.
It's like it's a natural boundary.
Yeah, that's weird. It's like it's a county line or something. But I normally, and by the way, that website does want you to put in an address to see if it's eligible, and that address is where I think it's best just to pinpoint if that house is eligible for that financing or not. So, we're gonna hear some background noise here.
They're taking down some tables and chairs, but that's okay. We can stay focused.
Keep talking. Sorry about the background noise, folks. There's some takedown happening. So, getting back to the typical client that you work with, what's your favorite client? Like, out of all the clients, and again, don't name names. Don't say Susie, because that would piss off Larry. But the favorite type of client.
Favorite type of client that I work with, I really thoroughly enjoy the first-time home buyers. And I say that because there's so much emotion, so much excitement, and that really is rewarding for me. And I've worked with a lot of friends, a lot of family that didn't expect that they could get qualified for homes as soon as they did. And Justin has helped out with several of those clients, and so that piece for me is really rewarding. That's why I got in the industry overall. Right. There may be a little bit more work than, say, your repeat or even investor buyer and seller, but that's okay. That's what I enjoy is the rewarding experience with the emotion and the excitement and the craziness, the ups and downs that can happen with those transactions.
So I don't get to see, when you say more work, for me, it does represent more questions, but what does more work mean for you?
Yeah, so and let me just think about how to say that really quick. So more work to me with first-time home buyers. The process of looking at homes, they don't quite know what they want yet. They may think that, but then they walk through some homes and they're changing their minds more often, and that's normal. They have a lot more questions, which is normal. They're not comfortable with the mortgage process, with the inspection process, appraisal, closing, all these processes. And that's, again, it's all very normal stuff, but it's just more time spent with them and going through the decisions and options and then managing the emotions. That's a big piece of what I do, because even repeat buyers too, but first-time home buyers can get very emotional, and I just have to remind them that we're thinking logically here. There needs to be emotion, yes, but emotion can't rule your decision making, right?
Emotion like, gosh, I love that house, but it went to somebody else. Oh my gosh, now I can't see myself living in another house.
Exactly.
That kind of emotion?
That's one. Or somebody, you come in and you offer them $20,000 less than what they're asking, and they flat out reject the offer, and they think life is over, and well, what are we going to do now? Well, there's options. So it's just managing and making sure they know what the options are, and that we can get through pretty much any situation that comes at us.
Do you prepare them for that? Not to scare people, but do you say, all right, before we begin this, here's what could look like for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The preparation, the information that I can give them, anything that I can give them before things happen and things start moving, that's all huge. That's all very, very key. Absolutely.
You can then come back and say, remember we talked about this? Well, this is what this looks like.
And half the time they say, well, I remember, but I don't really remember. I know you said something about it, but so, it's never a perfect scenario. And I always tell my clients this: every time we get in a transaction, if it goes absolutely smooth till closing, we miss something.
Oh.
There's going to be a hiccup. There's going to be a hurdle that we have to jump. How big the hurdle is, I don't know yet, but there will be one. So just be prepared for that, and we can handle it.
That's good advice, because I think from my side, I'll get someone pre-approved, I'll send them on their way to look at houses, and I don't hear the experiences back, really. I mean, I might check it and say, how's it going? And they'll say, not good. And I'm like, why is that? Well, we've offered 2 houses. And I'll say, well, that's normal. It doesn't, in this market, it's still going to be that way for a while. But I think that's something that I don't get a lot of chances to be a part of that process. And I'm not supposed to be, but I don't really hear about those stories until after closing or at closing, when I hear that you guys saw 84 houses and wrote on 6 of them. And that's something that I think is just part of the game sometimes. And do you ever get nervous when you have a first-time home buyer that walks in and they're like, they see 2 homes and they go, this is it, this is the one on the second house?
Sometimes. Do you
ever say, whoa?
Yeah, and that's, I'm not one to push, so you'll never feel any push from me as far as, if you're a buyer and you look at 2 homes and you say this is the, I'm not sure, you'll never feel me push. But on the flip side of that, sometimes I'll ask questions that maybe we'll dig a little bit deeper. Like you said, if they're a first-time buyer and they don't quite know exactly what they want, and they walk into one and say, yeah, I think this could work. That's my job then, to highlight maybe things that might not work, just to make sure we talk about all those variries.
So you go negative?
Because sometimes you have to, right?
I think so. Yeah.
You have to, and I don't want you to buy it and be unhappy, because then who does that reflect on? That'd be me, right?
I think that's interesting, because I think the temptation would be, as a salesperson, to say, okay, you like it, let's make an offer, let's make this happen, and not slow down that process. But again, from a lifelong standpoint, from being someone, you don't ever want someone to look back and think you didn't do a good job or did a disservice to them. And so that's the hardest part about sales, because normally in sales I was taught early on that when you hear yes, you're supposed to stop and proceed with the sale, and not continue to sell or sell against that decision. So that goes against the grain for all other sales out there, I would expect, even in cell phones. If someone says, I love this what's the latest phone? iPhone X?
I have no idea.
I don't either, but I thought I saw a commercial
I lost track of cell phones completely. I'm happy to say that, actually.
But if someone says, this is the one for me, that salesperson is supposed to say, great, let's write you up. Not come back with, well, have you thought about the negative downsides of this house? But I'm sure that you do base a lot of your business on repeat business referrals, and that's where I think you do a good job of hitting that a bit harder before we make a decision to write an offer on something.
Yeah, and that absolutely. I don't want to be negative. I don't want to spook buyers from it or turn them away from homes. But at the same time, I want to make sure that they've addressed all of the questions that they should be in their head. And part of looking at it is an inspection. So we go through. Well, I'm not an inspector. I can't tell you how your furnace is running or your water heater and things like that. That's what that's part of the process. It's part of the preparation in going through that. And so that piece is very important, making sure that we address all the questions that they have, and absolutely, if I have to keep looking at homes with them because they didn't consider some things that really would be deal breakers for them, I'll absolutely do it.
That you might be different than other realtors that I've seen or have heard of, that are a bit more kind of sharky, a bit more kind of go for the kill. Because I've heard of other clients, and again, my pre-approved clients, they either come to me with a realtor or I can help them find one that I work well with. But some that come to me with realtors, they're people I've never met before, they have had some bad experiences.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's just a perceived bad experience where I had one client complain that their realtor was asking them for too much. This client had like 10 jobs in the last 2 years, and the realtor was trying to be proactive and try to help them get their W-2s in order, and they were complaining about that. And I'm like, well, first of all, that realtor is doing me a helpful service by getting you in order before you get to me. But second of all, that's something that's part of the process, so don't complain about it. Because I have to get them eventually anyway. We got to verify where you've worked. But that's interesting that you take that approach. I think that might be different than most.
I would agree, and I take pride in that.
Yeah.
I look at my customer service awards that I've won every year since being in the business, and I take the most pride in those over anything else. And that'll pay off for me in the long run, even if it means more time or more effort or more energy, whatever it may be. Those will definitely pay off, know. And that's the way you have to look at it in this industry, in my opinion.
Right.
Some agents are definitely not like that. I work with them every single day on the opposite side of a transaction, and it's difficult for me to even work with them, let alone clients who maybe don't understand the industry as well as they could, or maybe they don't have any interest in understanding it. But I would say the majority of realtors have their clients' best interests at heart, but everybody has a little different personality, and some are a little bit more challenging to work with. Absolutely.
So let's role play here. Let's pretend that you were my realtor when I bought my house 10 years ago. Family of 5, 2-car garage. Would you have said to me, it's a great house, but have you thought about the fact it's not a 3-car garage?
Yep.
And I would have said, wait, what?
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah, because now I hit it every single
garage,
day.
The 3-car garage, the amount of bedrooms, the extra space to have the family spread out, the location, and it can be as simple as, what do you think about the garage?
Oh.
It doesn't have to be, well, it's not a 3-car garage that you told me you wanted. What are your thoughts on it? Maybe it's an extra deep 2-car garage, and if that's going to work, that's great. Just my goal is to make you think about it and make sure that you've addressed that.
That's a good approach, because you're not going negative. You're not being. I've met people in my life that everything we talk about, somehow they find the negative side to it.
Yeah.
And I can see it, and I'll want to run away from it. But so you're doing a good job of at least provoking the thought. That's
probably the better way to put it. I'm just making them think about it. What do you think about the garage?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the location? How does this yard look for you? Things like that, and just to get their response and make sure that they've thought about it. Because when you're walking through a house, especially a first-time home buyer, there's so much to look at. There's no way to take it all in the first 30 minutes, and that's where it's my job to make sure that the key points are touched on and discussed and thought about. And then from there, my rule is 80-20. If you love 80% of the house, you can usually change the other 20%, right? And so if you love 80% of the house, you should probably go for it, because there's no way you'll ever love 100% of a house. Does that make sense?
Do you meet clients that are expecting to love 100% of the house?
All the time. But that's the expectations piece that I have to talk to them about. Is that there's no house that'll be absolutely perfect. I have clients that have built homes, and the day they move in, they say, I wish I would have built this a little differently. My in-laws are an example. They thought about putting a bonus room above the garage, said, nah, I don't think I'll use it. Within the first week, talk to them about it. I should have put the bonus room in the garage, and it happens. It's life. But you will never love 100% of the house, even if you build it. There's always going to be some things you do a little differently.
I think back to my house purchase, and I think I did have we did have on our wish list, like 10 things we really, really wanted to have, and we did hit 7 of those 10 things. And 3-car garage was on that list, I believe, and now we'll do a shed instead. But so do you have to kind of, when you do meet your clients initially, do they come to you with their wish list of like, it's got to have this, it's got to have this, and you can kind of listen to that and then come back and say, you're on track, or can we talk about that part of the list?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's before we even go and look at houses on the buy side. I love to sit down and have a cup of coffee or just come to my office and talk about your thoughts, your expectations, your wish list. And if the wish list is far too much for what your pre-approval amount will get you, I don't want to bring you out to houses and have your heart break.
Right.
I want to have that conversation to say, hey, this is the market up here. This is, if you're looking at this location, this is what you can expect to get. And then, just having that conversation can set us up for success. That's the ultimate goal, is setting us up for success.
That could be a rough moment, because they might come back to me then and say, so I need to talk about going higher with my purchase price level, and I might say yes or no, we can't, or we can.
Right.
Or they might see that new payment for what I think that's kind of the evolution of the first-time homebuyer. That can be frustrating but rewarding, but part of the process is that evolution of, I want this for this much a month, and then oftentimes we can't make that happen, just the numbers don't align that way, and that's just a time to talk more about. I've had many clients that walk in and say to me, I want to stick with $1,200 a month. That's great, and 2 weeks later it's a conversation about how can that go to $1,300. I'm okay now with $1,400.
Yeah.
And they've looked at their budget, they've talked to people like you, and they've figured out what they can get for their dollar, and they've realized they want to get more. And so then it's just a moment of, can we pay off that car real quick and free up $220 that we normally spend on a car payment and put that towards a house instead?
Right.
And that's just kind of how this evolves. I think it's a natural. When I first began the business, like 18 years ago, I was surprised by that. I was kind of like, it caught me off guard, those conversations, and now it's just normal. In fact, if we don't have those, I kind of wonder what's going on.
Right.
I might check in and say, how?
Things are going too smooth.
Things okay? Yeah. I might steal your phrase, because that was a pretty smart way to let people know what to expect. I don't want to scare people, but buying a house now is tougher than it was 10 years ago. From my standpoint, probably from your standpoint, because it's multiple offers are frustrating for people. Have you had any buyers that have tried to write offers on homes and have been beaten out 4 times in a row and have just walked away and said, we're not buying a house now?
Gosh, honestly, I haven't had anybody walk away completely. I've had some really discouraged buyers, but a lot of that again is the expectations and managing those expectations and emotions. Right. And say, this is a multiple offer situation, and frankly, if we're financed and somebody comes in with cash, we really don't have much of a chance. And so having those conversations really can help. And that's where I say, if you have emotions invested into the deal, that's good. I want you to be emotional and have an attachment to the property you're interested in, but don't be so attached to it before it closes that you can't walk away from it either, right?
Oh, good point. Yep.
So if you get beat out in multiple offers, you say, well, I'm disappointed, but I know there'll be another one out there for me.
Right.
Or and even if you win the multiple offers and we're 2 weeks before closing, things still happen, as you know. Things still can happen. It's awful when it does, but we need to be able to overcome those things, and that's part of the conversation that I have, and I think that's what sets experiences with me apart, is that I do have these conversations, and I make sure that I'm available for my clients, and so that those things don't turn into traumatic events. They're just a hiccup or a hurdle that we have to jump. Right.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, that if you are going to set them up properly for what to expect, and that's from both my side and your side, I think that's going to be a great way to just, like you said, minimize those moments when they feel like the world's coming to an end.
Yeah, and that's interesting you put it that way, because there are situations where buyers call me in a total panic, say this is all over, let's just throw in the towel. Right. And you say, no, hold on here, let's talk about this, what are the alternative options, and we can usually get through pretty much any situation. Absolutely.
Just step away from the ledge. Well, you talked a little bit, I'll hit on this a bit further, you talked a little bit about how you kind of manage expectations, so kind of walk me through how you will manage a client expectations? Because a lot of home searching takes place on nights and weekends.
Yeah.
When many people are home with their family, and you're then hitting the streets. So how do you manage your client expectations as far as how do you balance your life and work and family?
Yep. I appreciate the question because not everybody asks that, especially clients. So they come in expecting that, yes, I'm working for them, but they expect that I'm at their every beck and call. And that, unfortunately, isn't the case sometimes. So what I like to do is talk about my daily routine, my daily schedule with clients, and then try to match it up with their schedule. So maybe they each have Thursdays off. That just, they just happen to take Thursdays off. That's perfect. So Thursdays during the day is when we'll want to set up showings, if at all possible, because you're right, nights and weekends, they fill up extremely quickly. And I'm, just looking at my schedule right now, for an example, I'm booked out till the middle of next week for evenings, and same thing with the weekend. The weekend is really full. So those are the types of things that having the conversation up front can really save some frustration on both ends, frankly, because they expect that, well, I know he's filling up on the weekends, Thursdays are our day, or maybe it's Tuesday afternoons and Thursday mornings, whatever it ends up being. That's really a time saver and a frustration saver. And so managing that is having conversations up front and making sure that there are boundaries, that I'm pretty honest with most of my clients in that I have a family event this evening. I won't be available by phone. I can text you, as an example, but I won't be able to do appointments for that. And if I did, you mentioned it, if I did take those appointments, I might not have much of a family life, if at all, right? And because we can work as much as we want, and so that's both a positive and a negative. And in this case, I've got to take care of my family too, right? So having that conversation is very important with my clients, and the majority of them understand. And sometimes if they don't understand, then it's a requirement for me to have that, dig into that a little bit further and just make sure we're on the same page.
And that's where the emotion plays a part, because if I'm a client, I'm pre-approved, it's my first home purchase, I'm excited, I'm nervous, I'm anxious. I find on my own that dream house that I want to see Saturday morning, it's Friday night. I text you or call you and say, Derek, clear your schedule, because tomorrow I found 5 homes that I need to see before they go quickly. Meet me at the first house at 8:30 a.m.
Yes.
You say yes?
Well, I've been in the situation.
Has this happened before?
A few times.
Oh, geez.
Yeah,
I was just making up a wild...
No, it happens. And again, part of the conversation is, well, if Saturday morning is busy for me, I've got other clients. I wish I could work one-on-one with every client, but I won't stay in the business real long if I'm doing that, because that means I'm not making a living doing that, frankly, because it can take 2-3 months sometimes to close on a transaction. So I've got other clients, I can't cancel on them. And I asked the question, if somebody else asked me to look at a house when I had appointments with you, you wouldn't want me to cancel on you.
Of course
right?
not. No.
Of course not. So that's the answer I get. And this market, especially up in the Cambridge area and things, it is a fast market, there's no doubt. But multiple offers don't happen within the first 2 hours like they sometimes do in the Coon Rapids and Blaine areas, So we usually have a few days to look at it. And so what I might do in that situation is say, okay, let's meet at 6:30 a.m. before my morning appointments start. If you want to really look at them Saturday, we may be able to work that out. Or I can just talk to the client, or to the other agent rather, and say, can I ensure that my client can see it Sunday evening? And they say, yeah, why wouldn't you? If you book the appointment now, we're not going to look at any offers till Monday morning. Right. It's in their best interest to allow the most showings and most offers that they can. And so that's usually, we can usually overcome that.
That's a good point, because the buyer pool up here and the seller pool probably is smaller than the Twin Cities Metro. So you do have multiple offers, but it's not as fast and furious.
It's not if you don't have your offer in within 6 hours of it being listed, you're going to miss out. Yeah. It's if you don't have your offer in within 4 or 5 days.
Oh, that's nice.
So that affords us a little bit of a luxury in that we don't have to see it within 12 hours.
So my current house that we're in now, we've been there 12 years.
You're going to ask me if you can get multiple offers on it, aren't you?
Oh, can I? You could do that.
Man, you're going to ask me to guarantee something on this
Derek-
podcast, aren't you?
Derek can do that for anybody that's listening. No, it was stressful because we went through the house. It was totally a seller's market. This is in '04, and it was write an offer here on the spot, or else forever forget this house will be gone in 3 hours.
Yep.
And I didn't like that at all because
No.
I felt like, and it worked out for us, but I did not at all like the pressure, and it was not being amplified. That was the true environment, because when we were there, like 4 other people came through. It wasn't even an open house. I think it was just like a showing, but we just kind of stayed longer, and then people kept showing up, and so that was a moment of stress that it worked out okay, but I did not enjoy being told, you must write an offer here in the car out front, or else forget this house will be gone.
Right.
So that's one more bonus why I think country living might be a nice option for people. I've also met people that just want acreage. They just like to have. It's almost like a old-fashioned, not caveman, but like almost like king of the castle. Like the more acreage you have, the better you feel.
Yeah.
And that's them. That's deep down. That's what they want, and they're happy having more acreage.
Yep.
Some folks I've met are happy having 0 acreage.
Right.
Because
Less
that
to
means less
manage.
to maintain. And
Yep.
so I guess if you give them chickens for closing gifts, they probably would give them right back to you. But that's something. So again, back to your expectations. That it sounds like you do a lot of work up front to make sure that things go as smoothly as possible.
I try. Yeah.
You don't just jump in the car and go see a house and we'll figure it out later.
Yeah, and frankly, I usually will ask all sorts of questions, and don't be offended if you call me and I ask, are you pre-approved? How does that look? And because I don't want to bring you to a house that that you're not pre-approved for,
Right.
and
That's the worst.
that's just that's protecting you, both of our times, but it's protecting you from falling in love with a house that maybe we can't get. And so that's absolutely true. One of my favorite sayings in this industry is I'd rather be proactive than reactive, and being proactive will win out 100% of the time as far as making things easier on everybody. And it's funny you should say writing an offer in the car, because there are situations, I don't want to mislead people,
Right.
because in this market there are definitely situations that you have to move quickly, and so we're not blind to that.
Right.
We do write offers in cars. Sometimes we do write them sitting on the kitchen table. One of my clients, we wrote an offer sitting at the kitchen table at the house we were looking at.
Oh, really?
They were in there for 10 minutes, said this is the one. We'd looked at 20 already. 10 minutes, this is the one, write it up, Derek, right here, right now, we'll sign it, done.
That's different, I think. That's
we
where
we do that.
That's where I think the client has told you this is the one, and
Yeah.
you've seen enough to know
Yep.
that this is the one. And in that case, there's no reason to wait around, because
Right.
nothing good happens from that.
And it was a timely, we had to move quickly. It just, it's similar to the market in the cities in that regard, but it doesn't always happen like that. Whereas in the cities, if it's a hot property, it's usually multiple offers in a day,
Yeah.
and that's tough.
Interesting. So tell me a bit more about Century 21 and why you've chosen. You've been with them your entire career so far.
Yes,
So
sir.
tell me about what makes them for you the best place to park your license.
Good question. I thoroughly enjoy Century 21. It's for me, the atmosphere means a lot, and we have 16, 17, 18 agents, something like that in our office. And it's a family.
Yeah.
That
Was
had
it the bakery?
It's
It
not
had
a
baked
dog eat
goods,
dog.
but they had
I
sandwiches
love
too.
working
Yeah, that's the bakery.
It's a
with
bakery?
other agents in
Oh,
my
well, I
office,
bought some
and
baked goods,
the
believe
other
me.
offices I've
But we had
visited
some
and talked
awesome
with.
food as
It's not
well.
that way. It's
And
very
they've been there
much,
for 50 years,
it's
100
my
years.
business
Oh,
or
yeah.
no
No, that's a
business kind of
staple.
thing,
I-
and
I
they
eat
don't
there
wanna-
several times a
they don't
week
wanna work
with the
each other
convenience
because
of just a walk
they
away.
wanna
Damn
be
bakery.
themselves.
Yeah.
They
And
get
to
you when
me,
you walk in,
it's-
it smells.
unless
I went there for
there's
chili,
companies
walked
that
out
are
with a dozen
thriving and
donuts.
not
Right.
but-
Oh,
having a
I
place
do
to go,
remember that
I'd
now.
like
Yeah,
to
that
do
was the
that.
bakery.
So,
Yeah, that was
I
awesome.
like to work with
But
my
I-
broker.
Yeah, it is.
Her
It
name's
is. I
Carrie.
love
She's
the
outstanding.
location,
Huge
but
support
the family
system there,
atmosphere
and
and just
Century
the
21
it's downtown
in my
Cambridge
opinion,
if you're
is
not
the best
familiar.
support system
And
of any
if you're familiar with
brokerage.
downtown Cambridge, it's a
And I
cute,
say that because
cute
they have-
downtown.
Oh,
It
it's
really
a
is.
movie
There's so
set.
many,
Yeah.
Even the courthouse
so
right
many
there, I was like,
support
that's got to be in a
systems as
movie
far as people
somewhere.
that know
Yeah.
what
It's
they're
not, it
doing
should be,
and
but
have been in the industry longer than I've been
and so
alive
back to
and,
your
you know,
your
things
your
like
comments
that,
about
which
Century
is really
21. So
just
I've worked in
an
places where in sales environments
outstanding
where
way to go,
people
especially when
didn't
you're
share
first
with each
starting out.
other.
That was a huge
People
concern
didn't
for
want
me, but the more
to
I've learned about
leak
it,
a successful
in the
tip to
past
somebody
few
else
years,
because it was kind of
some
competition
research. It's-
because we're all in
it's really
sales.
where I'll be.
And I've worked in places that were the opposite, and I really much more enjoyed places that were helpful with each other. I scratch my back, you scratch yours. No, vice versa.
You look left, you look
There's
right.
some other
you see
back scratching
courthouses,
happening.
you see little mom and pop
But we're
shops.
willing to help each other because we're all in this together. So so that's been your experience at Central 21. You've had nothing but
Absolutely.
good times with.
Absolutely. Yep. That's it's family atmosphere, and we can offer tools to buyers and sellers that in this market are unheard of.
Right.
We have so much available to us to access and utilize to help our clients. That's really what it comes down to, is helping the clients, and we have so many things that we can access that really you don't get unless you're in a huge market or you go to just this huge company where nobody knows each other's names.
Right,
And so we have the best of both worlds.
Nice. So I have a question for you about how your day looks. So I'm guessing you just, you roll out of bed at like 10:30 o'clock in the morning. You don't work till 5 at night, right? So you
right.
You
Yeah.
just show houses from 5 to 9, then it's back out to bed again or whatever you do.
And
So walk me through your.
I have coffee 4 times a day with,
Yeah.
Uh,
So what is your average weekday, weekend?
Lots
look
of
like?
misconceptions on a realtor's day.
Yeah.
Well, here's the ideal scenario. Okay, so I'm usually up and working, and I'll do my exercising and breakfast and things, and then I'll be up and working at 8 o'clock. Okay,
8 p.m.?
that's
8 p.m.
8 p.m. 8 a.m.
Oh, in the
8
morning,
a.m.
okay.
Maybe I should specify.
Yeah, please be
PM.
clear.
8 a.m. is when I, usually will get going on my the emails and trying to catch up a little bit for the day, and again be proactive and how are things going to look for the rest of the day. Trying to do that for about a half hour, 45 minutes to get caught up. Then I start what I call prospecting, and that's pretty self-explanatory, but that's when I start calling people that I haven't followed up with in a little while here, trying to drum up new business. That's what I have to do in order to stay alive. That's my livelihood, is new business. Once I close a transaction, that I have no more business, with that particular person unless they're investing or whatever have you. But so that's where I'll call my former clients, talk about referrals, how are things going, anybody that's looking to buy or sell. And so I'll do that. I'm not going to lie, around lunchtime, my voice hurts a little bit, and I'm ready to take a little break, so I take a half-hour break for lunch, and then I get back at it. And usually the afternoons are where my appointments are. So listing appointments, buyer showings, things like that, meeting new buyers, meeting new sellers, and then continuing to clean things up from the day, emails coming in, things like that. I could stay busy all day with emails, but that doesn't do anybody any good as far as being proactive in selling property or looking at property. So that's the ideal scenario. Then my phone goes off at 7 and I spend the rest of the evening with my family. But here's how it really goes. About 8:45 I get a call.
That was the picture perfect day.
That's a picture perfect day,
Okay,
right.
all right.
So here's how it really goes. About 9 o'clock, I get an emergency phone call saying the closing that I have in 2 days is in jeopardy, and so it takes me the next 2 hours to clear all of that up, right?
Okay.
And then I have, like you said, emergency showings that people think that this is the absolute house, and we got to go look at it, and that's fine. We can do that. So there's a lot of shifting in that, and I have to be flexible, which is fine. But it's rarely the picture perfect day, if that makes sense.
So, and then let's jump to Saturdays and Sundays. So you must just Netflix binge all day on Saturdays.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
Just don't get out of
the
your
weekends are
pajamas?
my busiest time, and whether or not that's good or bad, I don't know. But the weekends are very busy. A lot of people work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and evenings fill up quickly, and then the weekends are what's left. And so when I'm looking at my weekends, I usually try to get all appointments done in the morning, because I do have family dinners and events, birthday parties, etc. Weddings, you name it. Obviously everybody has their life, so try to usually work in the mornings, and that's where I say I have no problem getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday to go meet with a client, because that means that both of us have the rest of our Saturday for family and the rest of life, right? So weekends are very busy as well.
And you are an avid fisherman.
Yes, sir.
Is avid the right? Are you
Oh yeah.
crazy avid?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Anytime I can get out.
Ice fish as well?
Oh, absolutely.
So you are year-round. Okay, so
That's my
you're
happy
committed.
place is,
Really?
you know, people talk about their happy place where they can decompress, you know, and think about things and relax.
Yep.
Fishing is me.
Okay.
Yep.
Anything else you do for fun besides fishing?
Well, anything outdoors.
Outdoors? Yeah, I was gonna say.
Hunting. I play a lot of volleyball, so I play volleyball a couple nights a week later in the evening, and so that's a lot of fun as well. Good community, volleyball community. If you're a volleyball player, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And I'm sure you get a lot of business from being in those circles as well, from people that get to know you that didn't know you and
Yeah.
see what you do.
Yeah, those I really enjoy working with those people because I know them. The referrals are my best friend. Cold calling is very challenging because I am fighting an uphill battle as far as earning their trust.
Right.
You know, whereas with volleyball people and fishing and hunting spheres, they already know who I am.
I'm
Absolutely.
going to ask you a question that I didn't prep you for.
Oh, boy.
Your soccer background.
Mm-hmm.
We got to go there. So
Okay.
you played in high school?
I played. Yep. Well, ever since I was 4.
Oh, from age 4 on up to
Yeah, barely able to walk.
yeah.
To kicking a ball that's as big as my whole body, and then all the way up through high school. Yeah.
Were you a defenseman, midfield?
I was
forward?
midfield.
Okay.
Midfield.
So you ran a lot.
I was up and down. Yep. And I played all 90 minutes
Oh, really?
every game. Yep.
You didn't ask for a sub
Nope.
often?
Never needed one.
Did you prefer to play in the outside or in the middle?
Middle.
So you
I
were
was-
like the man.
I was center mid my
a playmaker?
entire career. I was behind the scenes. I have tons of assists or
Yep.
setting up the assist man. So I didn't load up the stat sheet with all sorts of goals and things, but I'd like to set other people up for success, which I suppose helps me now.
Oh, that's a nice segue. We didn't plan
Right.
that, by the way. That was we did not prepare for that. No, many teams would kill for a player like you because that central midfielder who likes to run a lot, doesn't want to sub out, and is just a playmaker. You're the most well sought player in the field, in my opinion. Besides goalkeepers, because
Goalkeeper, yeah,
that's the
where-
most important
that's
position
your
is
background.
goalkeeping.
Yeah. No, I played soccer year round, indoor in the wintertime, and then spring and fall for school and summer and all of this and traveling. And so my entire school and childhood was all soccer.
You should start
Absolutely.
a pickup soccer game up here in Cambridge, Isanti.
I do that with volleyball now, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, the whole running thing with soccer. So I was going to say I used to be in pretty good shape, and I could run for 90 minutes without really trying too hard. But that's not so much anymore.
For the listeners, Derek has like a 30-inch waist, so let's not give him a lot of sympathy for the running comment he just made. He can still run, I'm sure. He runs to the fish house.
There's less. Yeah, I run to flags when I'm tip-up fishing. There's some running in volleyball, but more so jumping and the mental game of volleyball is a little bit different.
Derek only hunts with a knife.
Yeah, right.
So where we can
I
catch.
chase everything down.
Well, I think we're getting kicked out now by another group of people coming into the church. So, Derek, thank you for your time. It's great to hear more about your neck of the woods and what you do and how you do what you do. Our website is my website is our sponsor for our podcast. It's mnlowdownpayment.com. And Derek, how can people reach you if they want to get in touch with you about your business?
First of all, thanks so much for having me. This is a lot of fun.
Sure.
My cell phone 763-528-5573, or you can go to century21moline.com. Moline is MOLINE.
Or just stop by Derek's office downtown Cambridge
Right.
and grab some baked goods.
There you go.
That's what I do.
I can show you the way.
All right, and signing off. Thanks, Derek.
Thank you.
Bye.